At the moment I learned of the engagement of the esteemed alpha, Huashao, I found myself staring blankly at the pregnancy test resting on the countertop. 2 lines. Yet, I was acutely aware that a lowly omega such as myself was utterly unworthy of bearing Huashao's child. I was merely a tool for him, a readily available soothing instrument. I was scarcely even worthy of being called a canary. Following the announcement of the engagement came the exhilarating news from the laboratory. A remedy capable of treating Huashao's pheromone disorder had been successfully developed, and with that I found myself devoid of any remaining purpose. 1. A gentle knock echoed through the air, followed by a brief silence. Even in the absence of words, I knew it was the butler. He sought me out for a singular purpose. The onset of Huashao's sensitivity period had arrived prematurely, and he required my assistance. Please wait, I replied, discarding the unfinished suppressants into the trash before opening the door. Indeed, it was the butler, clad in a formal suit, standing at the threshold with an expression as impassive as when we first met. Proceed to the young master's room, you know what to do. I nodded silently and made my way from the dim confines of the basement to the 2nd floor, where Huashao's chamber awaited. A bodyguard beside me opened the door before stepping back. Huashao's room was even darker than the corridor, heavy curtains blocking out all light. Only a small lamp by the bedside cast a warm, yellow glow. The air was thick with pheromones, almost instantly saturating my nostrils and airways. I felt my legs weaken, struggling to maintain my balance as I squinted, leaning against a nearby cabinet to collect myself. Huashao's pheromones were distinctly powerful, reminiscent of an impending storm. Each whiff enveloped me like a whirlwind, bringing with it the foreboding presence of dark clouds and raging winds, an all-consuming force. Cold and brooding, it perpetually exuded an aura of oppression and aggression, mirroring Huashao himself. Regrettably, during sensitive periods, the pheromones became uncontrollable, transforming him into my master. They tormented Huashao, rendering him curled up in bed, racked with pain. He wore a bite inhibitor, glaring at me with the intensity of a predator poised to pounce. His expensive tailored shirt was drenched in sweat, clinging to his form, accentuating the perfect musculature of his waist and abdomen. I involuntarily swallowed hard. Despite the costly suppressor affixed to me, the nape of my neck began to tingle with heat, my glands pulsing in response. The pheromones within me clamored incessantly, as if they could burst forth at any moment, entangling with the feral pheromones in the air, an unending cycle of conflict. I was acutely aware of my purpose for being there, and thus I tore off the suppressor. Huashao's head shot up, his usually icy black eyes now ablaze with fervor. He gripped the bedsheets tightly, his brow furrowed, the remnants of his rationality seemingly engaged in a fierce battle with primal desire. Moments later, he seized a decorative object from the bedside and hurled it to the floor, gritting his teeth as he shouted at me, "Get out! Get out!" My initial attempts to soothe him had elicited far more intense reactions than this, so I felt no fear. Skillfully, I began to unbutton my clothing, taking deliberate steps closer to him. The potent pheromones swiftly enveloped me, caressing every inch of my skin like a gust of wind. A flash of white light surged before my eyes, and I found myself pinned to the ground as Huashao's instincts overwhelmed his reason once more. He violently tore at my garments, biting my neck through the inhibitor. The icy sensation sent shivers coursing through my body. The earthy aroma of my pheromones erupted uncontrollably, reflecting my own insignificance. The two pheromone scents intertwined frantically in the air. Huashao emitted a pained groan, pressing himself against me in insatiable demand. Pleasure surged through me like a current of electricity. I bit my lip, my fingers digging deeply into the carpet, desperately stifling any sound. My tears only drove Huashao further into madness, his fingers exploring the glands that the bite inhibitor could not reach. A tearing pain radiated from my lower abdomen, akin to a searing knife slicing through me, causing my vision to blur. The pain of being unmarked within the reproductive cavity was excruciating. I could only plead with him, "It will kill me if you take it out." Yet, lost in his frenzy, Huashao paid no heed, driven by pheromones, forcing my head into the carpet. The world around me faded into darkness. I had no sense of how long we remained in that state, but I knew one undeniable truth: he did not love me. All our intimate encounters were merely the instinctual responses of an alpha in a sensitivity period, a natural attraction between AO pheromones. This allure was not born of Huashao's will, nor did it concern my own essence. 2. Upon awakening, I found myself in the room of the basement. For 3 years now, after each of our encounters, Huashao would unceremoniously cast me aside upon regaining consciousness, a predictable routine. Huashao despised me, despite my unwavering presence by his side for 3 years. He was an individual of remarkable self-discipline, loathing anything that eluded his control, such as the erratic pheromones that plagued him. The disruption of his pheromones and the frequent outbursts of his sensitivity period had rendered him uncontrollable, irritable, a creature driven solely by primal urges. He was undeniably one of the highest-ranking alphas in Beijing, the heir to the Hua family legacy, meant to reside above all like clouds in the sky. Meanwhile, I was but a lowly omega, toiling for survival, so insignificant that I could be likened to the dirt beneath one's feet. Our paths should never have crossed. The error lay in a business dispute from his childhood, during which Yaoi was kidnapped and injected with various substances. Some of these substances lay dormant within him, evading detection until he turned 20, at which point they erupted in full force. The previous suppressants ceased to be effective, and no one could provide him solace, as he rejected all pheromones. Until I was discovered. Reports indicated that our pheromone compatibility was an unparalleled 100. At that time, I had just sold my blood at a black market hospital. My mother was suffering from renal failure, and I had exhausted every possible avenue for financial assistance, working multiple part-time jobs each day. Yet, it was still insufficient, woefully inadequate. The hospital informed me that if I could not settle the outstanding fees by the following week, they would cease dialysis treatment. With no alternatives left, I stumbled upon an advertisement for blood sales in a public restroom. Besides blood, they also accepted kidneys. I pondered that if it weren't for the Hua family seeking me out, I might have truly found myself in such dire straits. I recall emerging from that black market hospital into a torrential downpour. Without an umbrella, I rushed to my next job, sprinting through the rain. The water mingled with my tears, tasting both salty and bitter. After changing into my work uniform, I gazed at my reflection in the glass, my pallid face, damp hair, and gaunt figure resembling a pitiful specter. It was at this moment that the butler arrived. He stood at the door, extending a contract that stated the Hua family would cover all my mother's medical expenses, in addition to providing me with a monthly stipend of 100,000 yuan. The price for this was my commitment to serve as Huashaoi's soothing tool for 3 years, available at his beck and call. I had no grounds for refusal. The first time we met, Huashaoi frowned. I sensed he had never encountered someone of my background, hailing from the slums. I exuded an air of poverty. Even the suppressor on my neck was of the lowest quality, causing my glands to swell from an allergic reaction. I was as insignificant as an ant beneath his notice. When he still possessed his rationality, he would not even spare me a glance. Yet, regrettably, his pheromones recognized only me. I was his sole remedy during his sensitivity period. During our first encounter, he nearly marked me for life. In subsequent sensitivity periods, he would preemptively don a bite inhibitor, fearing any lifelong connection to me. Huashaoi loathed his affliction. He despised the fact that he could not regard me as worthy while being compelled to choose me. He resented the undeniable compatibility of our pheromones, despite our lack of love for one another. He loathed every moment we spent entwined. In short, he hated me. Lost in thought, the door creaked open slightly, revealing a furry head peeking through. Zhou Lin entered, carrying a tray. "Brother Yi Qing, I've brought you some food." He was the only servant of the Hua family willing to offer me a smile. I attempted to sit up, but my efforts were in vain. My entire body aches, as if I had been run over by a truck, with my bones feeling as though they might disintegrate at any moment. Even the slightest movement brings forth a tearing pain. Zhou Lin sits at the foot of my bed, gazing at the myriad of marks on my body, and suddenly tears begin to flow from his eyes. "Yi Qing, I feel your pain." The other members of the Hua family regard me with indifference, their faces devoid of expression, yet I can perceive the contempt lurking in their eyes. Only Zhou Lin truly empathizes with me. I have repeatedly told myself that I am merely a purchased commodity, and a commodity possesses no dignity. Therefore, do not take offense. Yet now, being treated as a human being, I find my heart tinged with an unexpected bitterness. I shake my head and sincerely respond, "There is no need to feel sorrow for me. I consider myself fortunate. I have heard that Huazhao's white moonlight has returned to the country. There has been new progress in the laboratory concerning the treatment for his pheromone disorder and rejection syndrome. He has become busier, and I rarely catch sight of him in the villa. I experienced a low-grade fever for a while, and my pheromones have been somewhat unmanageable, resulting in restless nights. When I visited my mother in the hospital, she looked at me and suddenly remarked, "Qing Bao, you've lost weight and look quite haggard lately." This unexpected concern made me feel a sense of grievance, but I could not cry, as it would only cause her worry and lead to her overthinking. I had to suppress the urge to weep, lowering my head to peel an apple to mask my emotions, and casually offered an excuse. I've been busy with my thesis defense and haven't had much rest. My mother gently ruffled my hair and admonished me. No matter how busy you are, you must take care of yourself and not put too much pressure on yourself. I murmured my agreement. After a prolonged silence, she suddenly spoke with a choked voice. Qing Bao, you have suffered because of me over the years. I set the apple and knife aside and embraced her. I have not suffered, mother. My benefactor is kind and treats me well. After a bout of sobbing, my mother gradually calmed down and inquired if I had been seeing anyone recently. I am a year older than Huoxiao, 24 this year. I entered school late, and when my mother's illness worsened, I took a year off and was on the verge of dropping out when I met Huoxiao, which allowed me to catch my breath and continue my studies. Hence, I graduated at this age. It is indeed time to consider romance, but I feel unworthy of such a privilege. I deftly sidestepped the topic and shared amusing anecdotes from school, which made her smile and eventually fall asleep. What she does not know is that I am producing medications for others. I deceive her by claiming that a philanthropist has recognized my talent and, moved by my filial piety, wishes to sponsor me, requiring only a few years of free labor after my graduation. My mother believes me. These sordid transactions will remain concealed from her, as I would never allow her to discover the truth. On the day of the graduation ceremony, Huoxiao made an appearance. He sat in the last row of the auditorium, his impeccably tailored Italian suit making him stand out starkly among the casually dressed parents. Immediately, a group of female students gathered, chattering excitedly about him, their faces flushed with excitement and shyness, yet they hesitated to approach him due to his aloof demeanor. Huoxiao has always had this effect, effortlessly becoming the center of attention wherever he goes. A pang of jealousy surged within me. After 3 years, this was the first time he had actively sought me out. My fingers unconsciously clenched, and my heart raced as if it might leap from my throat. When it was my turn to deliver a speech as an outstanding graduate, my voice trembled. My eyes betrayed me, repeatedly glancing in his direction. Huoxiao seemed to be looking at me as well. I felt a warmth emanating from those frost-like eyes. I quickly concluded my speech and eagerly made my way through the crowd. My classmates were taken aback by my sudden display of emotion, but I could not care less. Today was a special day. Perhaps he would finally. Xiao. A sweet voice called from behind me. Huoxiao looked up, his gaze drifting past my shoulder to a point behind me, revealing a gentle smile I had never seen before. I felt as if I were nailed to the spot, my smile frozen on my face. The person behind me brushed past, excitedly linking her arm with Huoxiao's. I didn't expect you to come. It was the newly hired overseas teacher, Yang Mu. Huoxiao's white moonlight. A sinking sensation gripped my lower abdomen, and the graduation cap felt suddenly heavy, all of them reminding me of the absurdity of my own feelings. Thankfully, I had not greeted him, nor had I rushed to embrace him. I composed myself, stepping back a few paces to hide within the jubilant crowd. Yes, I like Huoxiao. I am uncertain when or why I developed feelings for him. As an employer, he has treated me fairly well. High salary, minimal workload, and generous benefits, though he can be a bit erratic during his sensitive periods. However, that is not his intention. Most importantly, if it were not for him, my mother might very well have perished. At that time, she did not wish to burden me. She secretly reduced her medication and even contemplated suicide. Huoxiao's arrival, regardless of his motives, undoubtedly saved my mother and me from despair. I am grateful to him. He is my benefactor. I ought not to desire his love. That would be repaying kindness with ingratitude. Yet at times, I cannot help but ponder. Gratitude can never equate to love, so why do I harbor such feelings for him? After all, as an alpha, he does not regard me with much kindness. In his eyes, I am merely a tool, one he looks down upon yet must utilize. A mere object, not a person, not an equal. Falling for him feels akin to a prisoner loving their shackles or a slave adoring their oppressor. Absurd and degrading. I cannot find a rationale, so I can only attribute it to the most primitive, pitiful, and laughable attraction between AOs. As I ponder this, Huoxiao returns, bearing a small cake. I withdraw my thoughts and respectfully approach him, taking his suit jacket and hanging it aside. Have you secured a job? He inquires while handing me the cake. I am somewhat taken aback and respond honestly. I have received several offers, but I have not decided which to accept. Huoxiao nods, pausing for a moment before saying, you could also join Hua Corporation. We can offer you the best benefits. I stare at the strawberry-flavored cake in my hands, silent. Strawberry is the scent of Yang Mu's pheromones, delightful once, but now it feels somewhat cloying, perhaps because Huoxiao is fond of him. Huoxiao does not understand. I do not wish to be dependent on him. I yearn to be an independent individual. I open my mouth, intending to decline politely, when the overly sweet taste of the cream suddenly induces nausea. I cannot help but retch a few times, a wave of discomfort surging through my lower abdomen, reminding me of my recent low-grade fever and pheromone irregularities. An ominous premonition taking root in my heart. I quickly dismiss it. Cannot be. Even if one were to enter the reproductive cavity, the chances of conception without a mark are minuscule. Huashao watches me, his gaze seemingly probing. I apologize for my lapse. I strive to maintain a calm and composed demeanor. I must have eaten something that disagreed with me. Huashao appears unconcerned, suggesting, have Dr. Zhang take a look at you. There is no need. It is a minor issue. Huashao pays no mind, taking a phone call and leaving. I catch only fragments of accelerate clinical trials and launch by the end of the month. I know he is discussing the medication being developed in the laboratory for his condition. He is eager to rid himself of me. I am his blemish. This is quite satisfactory. The 3-year contract is about to expire, and his ailment will soon be cured, freeing him from the obligation to endure my presence. At long last, I have attained my freedom. The joy is palpable, yet upon catching sight of the pregnancy test on the sink, revealing 2 distinct lines, my heart was pierced with an agonizing sting. I gazed into the mirror, my hand instinctively resting upon my abdomen, where an unanticipated child resides, one that belongs to both me and Huashao. A torrent of emotions surged within me. Anguish, confusion, and an inexplicable, shameful flicker of delight. I still harbored a glimmer of hope. However, the subsequent message from Yangmu shattered my musings entirely. Before Huashao arrived at school, I had encountered Yangmu once. I had just exited the library when I spotted him, clad in a tailored suit, his slicked-back hair striking against the wall as he leisurely smoked a cigarette. He exuded an air of affluence, indulgence, and composure. I tightened my grip on the books in my hands, unable to resist the thought, no wonder he is Huashao's white moonlight, he is truly dazzling. Just as I was about to hasten past, Yangmu stopped me. Nonchalantly flicking away ash, he cast a glance in my direction and languidly remarked, Yiqing, I know you. The grayish-white smoke wafted from his lips, inevitably brushing against my face. I suppressed my nausea and patiently inquired, is there something you need? Nothing much. Merely curious about what the person whose pheromones perfectly match with Huashao looks like, he replied, appraising me with a hint of disappointment, as if lamenting for Huashao, clicking his tongue. This condescending demeanor made me uncomfortable, and I could not help but respond with a hint of ire. And so? Huashao would never fancy someone like you. Yangmu tossed the cigarette but into a nearby bin, a hint of frustration evident. What a waste of my attire. He shook his head and strode away. In Yangmu's eyes, I was unworthy of being his rival, and thus he never sought me out again. Until the graduation ceremony, when Huashao called out to me as I attempted to flee, Yiqing, let us take a photo together. Yangmu's expression soured slightly, but in the presence of Huashao he forced a genial smile. Yes, let us. He squeezed himself between Huashao and me, one arm around Huashao's shoulder, the other resting on mine. His fingers pressed against the muscle of my upper arm where I had injected the suppressant, exerting a subtle pressure. In that moment, I thought I began to grasp Yangmu's feelings upon encountering me. I too felt a pang of sympathy for Huashao. His beloved white moonlight seemed less than pure. Ultimately, Huashao's demeanor ignited a sense of crisis in Yangmu, who somehow acquired my number. He sent me an electronic invitation, the cover emblazoned with the gilded characters, Huashao Yangmu, glaring painfully to the eyes. In the photograph, both men donned million-dollar haute couture, linked arm in arm, smiling at the camera, a perfect match. So they were to be engaged. Why had I never heard Huashao mention this? The thought struck me as laughable. I was nothing more than a remedy for Huashao's ailment. What right did he have to confide in me? Yangmu's messages followed in rapid succession. Yiqing, do not presume that a few intimate encounters with Huashao have altered your status. You are merely a tool for his release. Huashao has mentioned that had it not been for the pheromone disorder, he would never stoop to touch someone like you, a lowly omega, finding you dirty at a mere glance. A spasm of pain gripped my heart. I knew Huashao would never utter such words. His upbringing forbade him from speaking so callously. But what did it matter? It was clear that he held such disdain in his heart. Tears blurred the lines on the pregnancy test as Yangmu's messages continued to pour in. Yiqing, remember your place. Do not covet what does not belong to you. It is unbecoming. Of course, considering you have been with Huashao for 3 years, I invite you to the engagement banquet. Just a friendly reminder, do not show up in that bargain bin attire. I would be embarrassed for you. I did not reply, silently discarding the pregnancy test into the trash. I was self-aware enough to know that even if they were not engaged, I had no right, nor was I worthy of carrying this child. Huashao departed for a matter, leaving behind a gift on the table. A prestigious watch, a Patek Philippe. Beneath it lay a photograph of us from graduation day, with a note penned in fine ink. Yi Qing, congratulations on your graduation. After the photo was taken, Yang Mu rushed over to inspect the result, and Huaxiao's hand unexpectedly settled on my shoulder as he addressed the photographer. Let us take another. An invisible storm of pheromones surrounded us. I froze, for Huaxiao had never initiated contact, especially in public. In the photograph, I wore my academic robe, gazing up in a daze at his profile, while he smiled softly at the camera. Silent tears fell onto the photograph, and I carefully wiped them away. Why, Huaxiao? Why this ambiguity? Why create the illusion that you care for me? You do not love me, you are to wed another. Why then, this sudden kindness? Reason urged me to discard the photograph, to gather my thoughts and resign myself to reality. Yet, as my hand hovered above the trash bin, the resolve I had mustered wavered. This was the only photograph we had taken together in 3 years. I sought out a beautiful frame, placing it delicately within, then cradled it as I fell asleep, as if Huaxiao were beside me. Alas, self-deception cannot withstand the weight of reality. The following day, Yang Mu sent me an interview clip. A reporter asked Huaxiao what his greatest goal was at present. After a moment's contemplation, he replied, I hope to see the pheromone disorder treatment released soon. The reporter inquired further, is it for your own sake, or for the benefit of the masses who suffer from pheromone turmoil? Huaxiao shook his head. No, it is for freedom. Freedom. I thought I understood his meaning. Pheromones are a shackle that bind Huaxiao, forcing him to submit to me. Yet, had they not ensnared me as well? The difference lies in the fact that Huaxiao is confined in body, while I remain ensnared in heart.
Yang Mu informed me.
The clinical trials for the drug have been remarkably successful. Yi Qing, congratulations, you will soon be cast aside. Yang Mu was correct. I encountered Huaxiao in the stairwell, the butler standing respectfully behind him, inquiring, young master, the contract is about to expire. Shall we renew it? Huaxiao remained silent for a moment before shaking his head. No, let her go. Before the drug's launch, Huaxiao experienced another susceptibility phase. I was pregnant, and could scarcely endure his fervent advances, but this was my duty. I had no grounds to refuse. In my heart I thought perhaps it would be best to let it all slip away. This was fate. Yet today, Huaxiao was different. This phase of susceptibility was unlike any of our previous encounters over the past 3 years. There was no frenzied tearing, no overwhelming pressure from uncontrolled pheromones. His movements were remarkably gentle. The cool, soothing pheromones enveloped me, delicately caressing every inch of my skin. I felt as if I were submerged in a hot spring, comforted and contented, my heart and limbs languid. This time I was no longer a passive recipient. Rather, it felt as though I were cherished within his heart, tenderly adored. Had it not been for Huaxiao's bloodshot eyes, I might have doubted this was a phase of susceptibility. In the midst of our entanglement, the bite guard somehow fell aside. Unlike my first attempt at soothing him, where he desperately bit at my glands, he merely pressed a gentle kiss to my brow. In moments of his fury, I had not shed tears, yet at this moment, my heart swelled with bittersweet emotion, and tears streamed down my face. I knew this was the last time. Thus, summoning my courage, I cradled his face and pressed a kiss to the corner of his mouth. Huaxiao paused, his large hand gripping the back of my head, flipping the dynamic and deepening the kiss. For 3 years he has worn a bite guard. This marks our first kiss. Lacking finesse, our teeth clashed together, and the metallic taste of blood spread between our lips, yet we chose to disregard it. We kissed fervently, our tongues entwined, the sound of our sticky intimacy echoing in the darkness. The muffled groans that escaped my throat were swallowed in disarray. Only when our oxygen was depleted did we part. But in an instant we were entangled once more. We kissed again and again until Huaxiao succumbed to the sensitivity phase and fell into a slumber. I gazed greedily at his sleeping visage, my fingers tracing the contours of his features. How wonderful it is. In the future, when I think of Huaxiao's sensitivity phase, I shall only remember this tender moment. I held him tightly, inhaling deeply his heart-stirring pheromones. I adored it. Alas, such moments will not come again. I propped myself up, nibbled at his gland, and tears streamed down his spine. In his dreams, Huaxiao furrowed his brow and uttered in confusion, "Will the little cat come back?" I pressed my lips together. "Yes, Huaxiao, your little cat will return, but I must take my leave." Reluctantly, I kissed his cheek, leaned close to his ear, and softly bid farewell. Huashao, goodbye. I donned my clothes and cast a final glance at Huashao on the bed. The sound of the door closing was barely audible, as if I had never existed in his life. On the day I departed, the sun shone brightly, and the breeze was gentle. No one came to see me off. Zhou was busy and had taken his leave earlier. He wept profusely, his eyes red and swollen, unable to meet my gaze, instead focusing on my abdomen. Yiqing, can I reach out to you when I miss you in the future? My nose tinged with emotion. I paused before managing a smile. Of course. Zhou sniffled, his eyes lighting up. Yiqing, may I hug you? I hesitated for a moment. Why, yes, of course. He embraced me warmly, patting my back, but quickly released me. Yiqing, please don't forget me. I solemnly assured him I won tea. After all, he was the only kindness I had felt in the Hua family. Upon hearing my words, Zhou beamed, skipping away to resume his tasks. Though no one saw me off when I left, I soon encountered someone who came to collect me. A van halted before me, and a group of men in black swiftly surrounded me. The location was rather secluded, devoid of any passers-by, prompting me to dart into the nearby woods. Yet those men seemed to possess an uncanny ability to track me down, regardless of where I fled. Soon, I was struck from behind and lost consciousness, only to awaken aboard a dilapidated vessel. Alongside me was Yang Mu, who was terrified. I have money. I can give you whatever you want, just don't kill me. A masked figure tapped a knife against his face. What good is money? Let us play a game. It was a familiar trope from television, a choice between two options. They gagged us and called Huashao, informing him that only one of us could live, compelling him to make a decision. I can give you anything you want. Just don't harm him. It was my first time hearing such urgency in Huashao's voice. The masked man laughed heartily. Who is this him you speak of? Huashao did not respond, continuing to utter futile words. Whatever grievances you have, come for me. Don't involve the innocent. The masked man's patience wore thin. I will count to 3. If you do not choose, prepare for 2 coffins. 3, 2. I could hear Huashao rising, and then, a name pierced through the receiver. Yang Mu. I choose Yang Mu. I had known the answer all along, hadn't I? Yang Mu had been his childhood friend, their families well matched. What could I possibly offer in comparison? Yet, why did my heart ache so? The masked man hung up, released my bindings, then seized me and tossed me into the sea. You're of no use anymore, go. Go where? I could not swim. The waves rushed in, desperately filling my nostrils and ears. I wished to scream but could not open my mouth. I thrashed wildly until my limbs grew heavy and my body began to sink. I gazed up at the faint sun above, drifting further away, never anticipating that I would meet my end in the sea. Perhaps this was for the best. Just before my consciousness faded, it seemed someone swam towards me. I was struck by a high fever. In a daze, I felt someone bathing me to lower my temperature, then offering me water and soft food. He seemed to be weeping, tears landing on my neck, quickly wiped away by him with a cloth. He incessantly spoke to me, praying to the divine. You must get better. Yet, his prayers were in vain. My fever waxed and waned, my consciousness clouded, until one day, a familiar pheromone wafted into my nostrils, bringing a refreshing sensation. I clutched the source of that pheromone greedily. Awakening in the evening, I found myself wrapped in Huashao's coat, momentarily taken aback. Why was I so pitiful? He had cast me aside, yet I still clung to his pheromones with such dependency. I loathed this irrational attraction between AO pheromones. Zhou entered with a glass of water, startled to see me in tears. Yiqing, why are you crying? Had I been crying? I hastily wiped my face and met his gaze. Zhou, thank you for saving me. I had planned to come and see you with Brother Mo, but I saw you being carried into a vehicle, so I followed. Thankfully, you're all right. Zhou sat down, scrutinizing me before continuing. I'm sorry, but many people are looking for you outside. I didn't dare take you to the hospital. You're pregnant and can't take any risks with medication. I almost forgot that I was still pregnant. After everything, the child remained unharmed in my womb. Remarkable. I closed my eyes and sighed. I want to keep this child. Zhou mentioned that someone outside was looking for me, and I dared not go to a large hospital requiring identification and insurance. After disguising myself, I accompanied Zhou to a small clinic in the black market. The doctor ordered a series of tests. Upon seeing the fetal heartbeat on the ultrasound, I felt a pang of anguish, a sharp pain in my heart. That was my flesh and blood. I had contemplated giving birth and raising the child alone, but without the soothing presence of alpha pheromones during the pregnancy, I would suffer, and so would the child. To take it a step further, Even if the child were to be born healthy, what could I provide? I had no home, no stable job, and my mother's kidney disease could relapse at any moment. The future held no stability, only endless hardships. Why should I bring the child into this world to suffer alongside me? In the end, I could not go through with the abortion. The doctor stated that my body was too frail and unsuitable for the procedure. I needed to recuperate. Huashao's pheromones grew fainter, and I became increasingly restless, unable to sleep at night, my hair falling out in clumps. My body visibly withered away. Zhou Lin watched me, tears streaming down his face. He could only steal jackets from the Hua family for me. The clothes piled together formed a small nest, and lying in the center, I finally managed to sleep soundly. I dreamt of my mother, who said she missed me. Upon waking, I realized I had not visited her in a long time. My mother's hospital room was surrounded by bodyguards. I learned through a nurse that Huashao had searched for my body in the sea for a long time but found nothing. He did not believe I was dead. He was convinced that I would inevitably return to visit my mother, so he waited patiently for my arrival. I stood frozen in place. Was Huashao searching for me? Why? Was it guilt for having caused my demise with his words? Fortunately, he had not informed my mother of my death, instead deceiving her by claiming I was assigned abroad. No wonder she had not suspected anything during my prolonged absence. I wished to avoid entanglement with Huashao any further. I merely cast a distant glance at my mother before departing. Alas, he still caught sight of me. Huashao followed me all the way home. He looked at the dilapidated rental unit, his brow furrowed. Have you been living here all this time? I detested seeing his brows knitted in disapproval. If he found it distasteful, he could simply leave. I had not invited him to stay. I replied coldly, it is none of your concern. During my tenure under his employment, I had always spoken softly, never daring to retort. Thus, my current demeanor surprised him greatly. He opened his mouth, gazing at me with an expression of discomfort. Just then, Zhou Lin entered, carrying fish, and cheerfully exclaimed, Brother Yiqing, tonight we're making fish soup. Upon seeing Huashao, his voice abruptly ceased. He glanced at me, then at Huashao and quickly muttered, You two continue your conversation, before retreating with the fish. You two are together? Huashao inquired. I responded with the same phrase. It is none of your concern. Huashao inhaled deeply, his expression suddenly shifting. How has your pheromone changed? Has he marked you for life? Due to the pregnancy, my hormones had fluctuated, transforming my pheromone from the scent of earth to that of fresh grass. But that was information he did not need to know. I reiterated, It is none of your concern. How can it not be my concern? Huashao's eyes reddened, his words spilling forth chaotically. Had I known you would choose such a base individual, I should never have let you go. Unable to restrain myself, I reminded him, But Huashao, do not forget, I am also a base person. Realizing his mistake, Huashao's expression shifted to one of regret. I added mockingly, how fitting for base people to be together. I'm sorry, that is not what I meant. Huashao attempted to reach for my hand, but I evaded him. What do you mean? It is none of my concern? I shook my head nonchalantly. Huashao, the contract has ended. We have no further ties. I kindly ask you to cease any further disturbances. Huashao's hand fell limply to his side, a tear sliding down his cheek as he forced a bitter smile. Very well. He took a few steps, stopping to leave me with the sight of his lonely back, lamenting, I, such a worthless person, am destined to never possess you. I know this. Yiqing, I wish you happiness. Huashao stayed true to his word. He no longer sought me out and even removed the bodyguard from in front of my mother's hospital room. Yet, when I went to visit her, I encountered the one person who should not have been there, Yang Mu. He stood by my mother's bedside, leaning in to speak to her. My mother's complexion was ashen, her frail fingers gripping the sheets tightly, oblivious even as the 4-needle in her hand began to bleed. No more treatment. I refused to continue, she suddenly exclaimed, ripping out the 4-line and splattering blood onto the pristine sheets. A shocking sight. I should be dead. I should have died long ago. Why didn't I end my life 3 years ago? I wanted to rush forward and embrace her, but she seized a nearby fruit knife and pressed it against her neck. Panic seized me, my hands trembling as I pleaded, Mom, don't do this. Let us talk things over. Yang Mu scoffed, fanning the flames. Yiqing, your mother doesn't realize that her medical expenses come from your selling yourself. I grabbed his collar, delivering 2 sharp slaps. Speak again, and I won't hesitate to end you first. He was a coward, and after those 2 slaps, he dared not utter another word, scurrying away with his tail between his legs. I then turned back to comfort my mother. Mom, he is a bad person who cannot stand to see us happy. That's why he's spreading lies. Mom, you trust him over your own son? Mom, look at me. Your son would never deceive you. Please give me the knife, alright? My mother shook her head. No. Qing Bao, he speaks the truth. I am a burden to you. If I die, you will be free. Blood trickled down the sharp blade, and my heart raced as I felt myself on the verge of collapse. Fine. Go ahead and die. I heard myself sneer coldly. If you die, I will jump from here and die alongside you. Tears streamed down my mother's face. Seizing the moment, I embraced her, wresting the knife from her grasp and tossing it far away. My mother no longer sought death, yet she remained distrustful of me. She insisted on transferring to another hospital, desiring to move to a different city to live. Before the relocation, I bound Yang Mu. His meddling with my mother's affairs would not go unpunished. Upon seeing me, his expression transformed into one of calmness. Yi Qing, it should be I who hates you. You have no right to resent me. I twirled the dagger in my hand, patiently asking, and why is that? My family and the Hua family have been betrothed since childhood. There were no objections until you appeared. After your arrival, he sought to break the engagement at our first meeting. He was so enraged, as if I had stolen something from him, but I could not comprehend his fury. It was he who changed his mind. Why do you not resent him but direct your ire at me? Yang Mu paused, taken aback, before retorting. He changed his mind because of you. I laughed. No, even without me, there would have been someone else. He changed his mind simply because he does not love you. Yang Mu's voice sharpened. You twist the truth. Love or not is irrelevant in families like ours. He changed his mind because he loves you. Loves me? I chuckled, as if hearing a jest, laughing until I could finally stop. He loves me? Does love compel one to choose you during a kidnapping and lead me to my death? Yang Mu regarded me as if I were a fool. Only enemies would be chosen to be by his side. Do you think the one he chose would emerge unscathed? At Yang Mu's prompting, I unbuttoned his shirt, revealing numerous horrifying scars. He sacrificed me to protect you. These scars are the remnants of that time. You still claim Huashao does not love you? I remained silent for a long while before reclaiming my voice. That is merely your conjecture, your one-sided narrative. After all, because of Huashao's decision, I had nearly perished in the sea. Yang Mu laughed. It seems you are utterly ignorant of Huashao's past. I paused. What do you mean? Yang Mu tossed his hair back. Since you have the desire to accuse, allow me to enlighten you. Huashao once had an older brother. In their childhood, both were kidnapped and the captors would only allow one to live. His parents chose his brother, who was then tortured to death, while Huashao was sent back. This was the captors' intent, to sow discord, to send the one they cherished most to die, while the one who was less loved survived, resulting in one filled with regret and the other with hatred. I would not seek out Huashao, despite having learned the truth. Naturally, I had no intention of letting Yang Mu escape. My mother bore a 17mm wound on her neck, and I inflicted 17 cuts upon him. The wounds were not deep, but I salted them. I merely wished to cause him pain, not to end his life. Yet Yang Mu still perished. Immediately afterward, I was gagged and bound. The kidnappers called Huashao, instructing him to arrive alone within half an hour at an abandoned factory in the southern part of the city. Otherwise, they would kill me. Huashao arrived swiftly. The kidnapper pressed a gun to my head and tossed a sharp chopstick to Huashao. Pierce your gland, or I will pull the trigger. The gland is the lifeblood of an alpha. Its destruction signifies a fall from elite to worthless. Huashao is a businessman, and more importantly, the future heir of the Hua family. He is not foolish. Yet, as he took the chopsticks, he merely inquired, if I comply, will you release him? Upon receiving an affirmative response, Huashao hesitated no longer and decisively plunged the chopsticks into his gland. The gland is one of the most sensitive areas in an alpha's nervous system. I cannot even fathom the agony of such an act. I watched as copious amounts of blood streamed down from his neck. Huaxiao's forehead was drenched in cold sweat, yet he did not so much as furrow his brow. My mouth was obstructed, leaving me only to whimper, tears streaming down my face in anguish. Huaxiao glanced at me and said, "Don't cry," before addressing the kidnapper. "Zhou Lin, you have achieved your goal. Release Yi Qing. Or should I refer to you as Lin Ko?" The kidnapper was taken aback and promptly removed his mask. Indeed, it was Zhou Lin. He reverted to his original voice. "How did you know it was me?" "Yi Qing chose you, so I naturally had to investigate your background," Huashao replied, his gaze fixated on Zhou Lin's hands. "Moreover, Lin Mu once threatened me with that very gun." Zhou Lin laughed maniacally a couple of times. "You still remember him, Huashao? Then do you also remember that it was you who caused my brother's death?" From their confrontation, I pieced together a story. Lin Mu, afflicted with mental illness, was infatuated with Huashao and had persistently harassed him, all of which Huashao had rebuffed. Eventually, Lin Mu climbed to the rooftop, threatening to take his own life if Huashao did not accept him. This deadly charade had played out far too many times. Initially, Huashao would engage with him, but that time his patience had worn thin. Huashao hung up on him, prompting Lin Mu to jump from the rooftop, dying before Zhou Lin's eyes. Zhou Lin's initial approach towards me, filled with kindness, stemmed from sympathy. Sympathy for my fate, akin to his brother S, falling for a heartless individual. Later, upon discovering my pregnancy, he sought to have Huashao unknowingly kill his own child. He intended to reveal the truth afterward. However, he subsequently changed his mind. How much affection could an unborn child possibly hold? He wished to care for me until I delivered the baby, using my child as leverage against Huashao. But he did not anticipate Huashao's genuine feelings for me. Thus, a more ingenious plan quietly unfolded. He aimed to move me, to usurp Huashao's position, to have the one Huashao loved carry his child, and to send Huashao's offspring away. When the situation became irreparable, he would unveil everything to Huashao, relishing in his suffering and torment. Yet Yang Mu revealed the truth to me. I realized Huashao loved me, whereas Zhou Lin believed I would not leave. He despised Yang Mu for disrupting his plans, which led him to murder Yang Mu and alter his strategy. He sought to render Huashao a mere shell of a man, devoid of his gland, forcing him to experience the agony of watching his beloved perish before him. Thus, regardless of whether Huashao destroyed his gland, he never intended for me to survive. Zhou Lin pressed the gun to my temple and, in the wide-eyed stare of Huashao, pulled the trigger. Bang! Blood splattered, and Zhou Lin collapsed to the ground, his eyes fixed in eternal disbelief. A cheer erupted from the opposite building. Target neutralized, mission accomplished. It turned out Huashao had orchestrated everything before his arrival. He destroyed his gland to lower Zhou Lin's guard and buy time. Huashao was gravely injured, his complexion pale, yet he dared not lose consciousness. Before being wheeled into the operating room, he grasped my hand, pleading with me. Yi Qing, please don't leave. Okay? As if fearing my refusal, he took a step back. Promise me you won't leave before I wake up, alright? Seeing me nod, he finally felt at ease to lie down. Each second spent waiting outside the operating room felt interminable. I lost track of time until the surgical lights finally extinguished, prompting me to rush forward. The doctor shook his head at me. I felt the world spin, nearly unable to stand. A nurse steadied me just in time to prevent a fall. The doctor, with a look of regret, said, I apologize, I misspoke. What I meant was, he is fine. I yearned to rush inside to see Huashao, but upon turning the corner, I spotted my mother in a hospital gown. Mom, please don't react so strongly. I stepped forward, unsure of how to explain, and could only weakly say, I will leave. My mother locked eyes with me and asked, do you love him? I did not wish to lie, yes, but my mother interrupted. I won't be a burden to you. I grew frantic. Mom, please don't think that way. I will listen to you about everything. Just don't think about dying. That's not what I meant. My mother glanced at me with a hint of guilt before earnestly stating, I've heard about the incident where he harmed his gland to save you. I know that he loves you too. Qing Bao, I just don't want to be a burden. I won't stop you from pursuing happiness. Tears streamed down my face as I embraced my mother. Thank you, Mom. She returned the embrace and patted my back. Silly child. It's I who should be thanking you. When Huashao awoke, I had fallen asleep by his bedside. He reached out, gently hooking my little finger with his, gazing at me quietly. The moment I opened my eyes, I was met with his autumn-like eyes. With a smile, he said, the little cat is awake? Took me a moment to respond, and I asked, so, when you mentioned the last sensitive period, were you referring to me? Huashao nodded. I felt a bit aggrieved. Huashao, if you like me, why did you want to drive me away? Huashao appeared even more aggrieved. I didn't try to drive you away. I merely wished to grant you freedom. The injured Huashao shared countless words with me. He confessed that he did not enjoy the sensitive periods. He did not want to treat me so harshly but felt unable to control his pheromones. Each conclusion pained him deeply. He loathed himself for being a beast, for disrespecting me. He feared that I would hate him, detest him, and, due to the disparity in our social standings, would be compelled to flatter him. Thus, in his lucid moments, he would avoid me, ashamed to face me, further afraid of seeing disdain in my eyes. All along, his aim had been to expedite the development of a remedy for pheromone disorder. He yearned to be a normal person, rather than a superior who inflicts harm. Then, he intended to terminate our contract, placing me on equal footing and granting me freedom. As penned in the Count of Monte Cristo, if you desire something, you must set it free. If it returns to you, it is yours. If it does not return, you never possessed it. Huashao hoped I would come back to him. Yet, as one in a subordinate position, I dared not entertain the notion of his love. Fortunately, after much wandering, we found our way back to one another. Huashao, you seem like a different person, I said in a muffled tone. How wonderful it would have been had you said these words sooner. I'm sorry, Yiqing, I have many shortcomings, Huashao said, looking at me with a hint of remorse. I was born into a family devoid of emotion. I have never felt love and am unsure how to express it. A psychologist once informed me that I suffer from emotional disorders. Yiqing, I am gradually changing. The doctor said that love must be spoken and made visible. I have been learning. Can you give me a little more time? Huashao candidly admitted his feelings for me, declaring that he could not live without me. His heartfelt confession softened my heart. His sincerity compelled me to drop my reservations, and I confessed, I am pregnant. Huashao was taken aback for 3 seconds, then assured me, once the baby is born, I will raise it as my own. I felt as though I might choke on my own fury, gritting my teeth as I exclaimed, Huashao, I have only been with you. Huashao responded with a delayed ah. Forget it. Perhaps the trauma of his gland had muddled his mind. I straightforwardly informed him, the child is yours. Huashao again uttered an ah. The change in pheromones is due to pregnancy, not because of being marked by someone else. I shot him a glare. If you keep this up, I shall ignore you. Huashao, startled, quickly fell silent and enveloped me in his arms. Yiqing, my beloved wife, I am simply too astonished. In the span of a single day, I have simultaneously acquired a wife and a child. Woe is me. I am the happiest alpha in the world. I was left speechless. Who is this little crybaby? Where is the noble and aloof master Hua I once knew? Due to his severe injuries, Huaxiao's glands were tightly wrapped in bandages, preventing him from releasing pheromones for the foreseeable future. He believed his glands to be rendered useless, and with a touch of malice, I refrained from revealing the truth. The normally self-assured man had become quite insecure. Wife, without pheromones, am I still capable of loving you? Wife, during your heat, I won't be able to provide you comfort. Will you still love me? Wife, I shall urge the laboratory to develop the most effective suppressants. Will you still want me? His later inquiries grew increasingly absurd. Wife, if you are truly in need of an alpha, may I take on the role of the primary mate? I was momentarily lost for words and couldn't help but tease him. Huashao, do you regret your self-destructive decision regarding your glands? I do not regret it. My pheromones have only ever provided you with unpleasant experiences, and I do not covet them, Huashao replied resolutely. I merely worry that this version of me may become a burden to you. Fool, I cradled his face in my hands. There has been no unpleasant experience. I particularly adore your pheromones. Huashao grew anxious. Then what shall I do? After a moment of contemplation, he answered himself, do not worry. I shall have the laboratory work overnight to develop artificial glands. I now harbored serious doubts that Huaxiao's previous reticence was merely a cover for his lack of wit. My dear simpleton, your glands are perfectly fine. During his hospitalization, Huaxiao became exceedingly talkative, often boasting to the attending physicians about how well I treated him. I felt utterly embarrassed. To my surprise, one of the doctors began to compare his own situation, arranging for his girlfriend to bring him homemade bento the next day. This left Huashao envious. Could my alpha, Yiqing, truly lose? Without hesitation, I prepared a feast of 4 dishes and a soup. Though it may not have looked appealing, the taste was undeniably exquisite. However, Huashao frowned. Anger surged within me, nearly causing my heart to shatter. I glared at him. I despise it when you frown. Huashao quickly apologized. I'm sorry. I won't frown next time. I sat down, pondering, still unable to swallow my indignation. In a fit of annoyance, I delivered a light punch to him. After all my hard work, you dare to find fault. Huashao took my hand and gently blew on the small blisters caused by hot oil. I'm not finding fault. I'm just pained. It turned out that his involuntary frown was not one of disdain but of concern. My heart softened once more. Yisun was anything but obedient in my womb, often causing a ruckus. I suspected it was related to Huashao not marking me. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Yisun is the name Huashao chose for our child, sharing my surname. To be honest, I rather liked the surname Hua, but Huashao seemed indifferent. One day, he even said to me, wife, why don't I take your surname, Yi? In any case, as soon as Huashao was discharged from the hospital, I pulled him onto the bed. Huashao blushed, wife, isn't this inappropriate? You're still pregnant. I unceremoniously gave him a light thump. What are you thinking? I never said I wanted to do anything. I just want you to bite my glands and mark me. Huashao let out a dejected "oh." His thought process was quite peculiar. He always believed that his pheromones were chains binding me. After hearing me express my fondness for his pheromones, he began to feel jealous of them. He thought I loved his pheromones more than him. He sank his canine teeth into my glands, injecting his pheromones into me, ensuring they took root in my bloodstream. The marking was complete. Huashao immediately retracted his pheromones, drawing me tightly into his embrace. Tender kisses fell like raindrops, gradually deepening as he guided me. Breathe. His kisses were cautious and gentle. Suddenly, I recalled that last time during the sensitive period before our contract concluded, and I belatedly realized, Huashao, you had already taken the laboratory medication then, hadn't you? Huashao readily admitted it. That instance of touch, kiss, and all intimate interactions were not driven by pheromones but were born of irrational alpha's love. His warm palm rested against my back as he wiped away the tears from my cheeks, leaning down to comfort me. This time we won't rely on pheromones. We shall take our time. Life is long, and I will gradually reveal to Huashao that while I adore his pheromones, I love him even more. I cherish everything about him. The end of the tale is upon us. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.